What's up, everybody? Welcome to the very first episode of Breaking Orbit podcast. Your host, Frederick Douglass Bussey. And we're doing something a little bit different. To be honest with you, for years I had a couple of other starts at podcasts. And what happened was I felt very uncomfortable doing them by myself, right? I'm always a better person when I think, or I thought when I was having a conversation with people and things of that nature. And so there's a lot of different ways to do this, but one of the forcing functions that I've created in my life is just to schedule something and put it out there so I can go live and create the pressure on myself to actually do it. And um, I sat down and decided that this is something that I wanted to be able to put into the world to kind of share a little bit more about the ideas that shape not just my coaching, but my life as well. For those of you who don't know, I am the founder of Icon Status Coaching and Consulting, and we work with entrepreneurs to turn their sandcastles into skyscrapers. And I'll talk more about that later. It's not really as important right now. What we're just want to kind of deal with is why we're here. I'm going to talk about the today's topic, which is why are you so special? Right? What makes you so special? And to give you a little bit of backstory and explain a little bit about who I am and what this all comes down to. Um, I've been an entrepreneur for 20 plus years, 22 plus years. Hi, Kennedy. How are you? So we're recording this live. So it is good afternoon for me. So I've been an entrepreneur for 20 plus years. And I started being an entrepreneur accidentally, even though my career path was heading me towards being an entrepreneur. I just didn't know that that's what that was going to be. And it was because I grew up as a PK. I grew up a preacher's kid in small towns. And if you know anything about small town Black churches, you know that oftentimes the choir is very, very small. It can be just the pastor and his family or the pastor's kids. And in that case, that was the pastor's kids in general. And so we used to do a lot of singing. I grew up learning about harmony and things of that nature. So long story short, I had friends who also sang. We ended up forming singing groups and developed this dream of getting a record deal with this group and, becoming a music star. And these are the days of boy bands and boy groups and things of that nature. So you got New Kids on the Block, New Edition, Boys to Men, Jodeci, Backstreet Boys. These are all the groups that are out there. So every four guys wanted to be, wanted to go out and grab some clothes from the mall and form a singing group. And that was me. And so I went to college, was continuing to go through things. And it turned out I was the writer in the group. In general, I used to write a lot of the songs. And as a writer, I began to pursue a career in music. Eventually, the group that I was in broke up. And so I still wanted to pursue a career in music. But in the meantime, when I was still in the group, what led me to becoming an entrepreneur was the fact that having a 9 to 5 was something that was a little bit, it doesn't work, right? So if you got to call out for work 2 or 3 times in a row because you're out on the road and you're not able to make it in time for your shift at 9 a.m. on Monday morning, then you're going to have a problem keeping a job and paying the rent. And so I started looking for ways that I could be able to incorporate making money and supporting myself, but also being able to support the dream. And so moving in that direction was a challenge, no doubt. So one of the things that I did was I ended up buying a commercial cleaning franchise, a Janet King franchise. And so I had this business and I'm doing these things. And I'm telling all this to say, it was a long journey of pursuing this career in music to going from the creative side as a writer and an artist to being an artist manager and working in publicity. Eventually became a partner in a PR firm. And from there, I left that PR firm and started my own marketing agency. And it's there where this kind of initial story really begins, because I'm in the process of trying to build this marketing agency, right? Got a small family. I've had multiple businesses, and things are just not really going well. And so I ended up hiring a coach, and I'm hiring the coach to help me with sales and marketing, because believe it or not, coaches need coaches, marketers need marketing, etc. And so people need support in what they're doing, and I needed that support. And the struggle was real. And I had been going through the process of working with him, and he gave me an assignment one day. And he said, I want you to sit down and figure out what your solution is for your clients. And I said, all right, cool. So I banged around on that idea for about a week. What is my solution? What is my solution? What is my solution? And the challenge was it was becoming overwhelming. I'm just banging my head against the wall. I couldn't figure it out. So I sent him a message one day and I said, hey, man, I can't figure this thing out. I don't know what my solution is. And he sent a message back to me that changed the scope of my life. He said, God doesn't make people without solutions. And so it's like a bomb went off in my head when I read that. And we had talked a little bit in that coaching group about, what it means to have a gift and to use your gift in your business. But we had never defined what that is. And so a lot of times people will use different words for the same meaning. I really started taking that to heart and started asking myself, what does it mean? That I have a solution? Is my solution my gift? What is a gift, etc. And so because of that, I went on this journey. I went down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out what a gift is. And mind you, I'm in marketing. And if you're in business at all, you know that one of the things that people will tell you is that the best way to promote your business or to grow your business is to write a book, to become an expert, and to do those sorts of things. Get out there, start speaking about your book, etc. And so it would have made sense for me owning a marketing agency to write a book about marketing. But that's not what I did. And I couldn't really articulate why. Even my coach was asking me, I don't know if Brian remembers this conversation, Brian Ryder, but we had this conversation. He's asking me, why are you writing this book? What is the point? And all I could tell him was, I have to write this book. This is the book that I have to write right now. And mind you, I'm still struggling with the business. I'm still struggling with the sales. I'm doing all the things, the results are just coming in slow. But I'm writing this book and I'm getting more and more excited about the concepts that I'll be sharing with you in this podcast and some of the things that I've been exploring and learning ever since, right? For the last 4 or 5 years, really starting to unpack a lot of things that make a lot of sense. And some of these things are maybe things you've heard before, some of them may not. But I'm excited to be able to share them with you because it is the fundamental underpinning for my life, the pillars on which I live my life, the singular principle that guides my thinking and my showing up in the world in every possible way. It is the cure for failure. It is the cure for success, the key to success. It is the key to having powerful relationships, it is key to being an exceptional leader or entrepreneur. It is the key to everything. And I know that's a huge promise. And maybe you've heard this in other places, but I guarantee if you stay with me on this journey, you're going to understand a little bit more about why this is so important for so many people. And it needs to be understood and why I felt compelled to share it. So I wrote the book called Breaking Orbit. You can see it behind me a little bit on the wall. And here it is right here, Breaking Orbit. Shameless plug, you can get it on Amazon.com right now, where books are sold everywhere. But the key to understanding this whole process was that it was so important for me to be able to break out these concepts. And I'm going to do that a little bit over time. I want to tell you another story, though, that kind of illustrates the whole purpose of this entire process and why it's so important. There's a story in the book that I tell about the Genius Factory. And there was a man named, there was a millionaire many years ago, back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. His name was Robert K. Graham. And so, what Robert K. Graham wanted to do was he had an experimental idea. He thought, what would happen if you could pair Nobel Prize winners, these people with exceptional intelligence, right, with some of the smartest women alive? And mind you, back then, all the Nobel Prize winners were essentially men, right? So, what if you could pair these exceptional men with these intelligent women? Could you create a superhuman race of children? Could you create a race of super babies that would be able to take humanity to the next level, right? And so, because he was convinced that the world was in genetic decline, he established this clinic called Graham's Repository for Germinal Choice. It was also known as the Nobel Prize Sperm Bank. All right. And so they had these lofty goals of creating this superhuman race of babies that would be super intelligent, super, everything, the best of the best, if you will, by simply engineering them through genetics. But the entire process was mired in controversy from the very start. Why? Because the very first sperm donor was a guy named William Shockley. And William Shockley was an avowed racist. He believed that whites are superior to blacks. And so it did little to kind of tamp down the idea that the sperm bank was just an ethnic cleansing style project. And so nobody wanted to be associated with it. So in the 19 years, there were about 200, the 19 years that this facility existed, there were about 215 children that were created as a result of this. But none of them were really what you would consider geniuses. In fact, most were slightly above average intelligence, but they hardly fit the mold that Graham had created for them. And so for those people who had invested in this whole process, you would wonder, well, did they get their money's worth? Were these parents really, what was the ROI on this investment to spend thousands of dollars to engineer a child that would create a super baby, a superhuman being? And so I tell that story because we have to examine what we think special means in this day and age. A lot of us, we hear now about the millennial generation and Generation X and Generation Z, and how we've come into this culture where everybody gets a trophy, everybody's special, we get patted on the head for who we are, and parents have, kind of had an adverse reaction to the trauma of their own childhoods, right? What does that mean? Meaning that they have felt that they weren't special, and so they want to empower their children to be sure that they believe and know that they're special. You can do anything you want, little Johnny. You can do anything you want, little Susie. And so because of that, we have permeated a culture where if everybody is special, then nobody is special, right? How do you stand out? Well, the reason that rebellion kind of exists as well is because there's a lot of comparisonsism, there's social media, etc. But we have this idea of what it means to be special. And if you're looking at someone, you're saying that what makes you special is that you're an outlier. You are above average, superior in every way in terms of what you are doing and what you're creating, the results that you're having. We look a lot of times at materialism, billionaires and millionaires, and we say, well, these people are special. And it's because they've done something extraordinary. But what does it really mean to be special? One of the challenges that we have when it comes to being successful in anything are the blocks that we create for ourselves, right? Within our own heads. And you hear people say, well, I just can't seem to get out of my own way. Or we'll say that person can't seem to get out of their own way. As if we could just allow ourselves to just do what we're doing, we could be successful. But why does that happen? Why is that such a challenge? And if you hear people talk about this in the personal development space, they'll talk about the fact that, we all have these beliefs and we frame them as limiting beliefs, right? A belief that limits you, restricts your ability to perform at a higher level. And those beliefs can show up in terms of fear, anxiety, performance issues, paralysis, procrastination, etc. Whatever those things are that you're experiencing, whatever those things that are going on for you, they come from a belief system that you have. And because it is invisible, meaning that it's how you were conditioned, it is a belief that in the way that you see the world, you can't, it's very difficult to change that. And what we're talking about on this show and really diving into is the understanding that there is a belief system that we all have framed in the world. And that if we can learn to uninstall that belief system and to adopt a more powerful, a higher level perspective for seeing ourselves and seeing others in the world, we can, in essence, create a different reality for ourselves, exponential results, and create even more impact and create more significance in our lives. And this is why giftedness, the concept behind the book, is so important. As we explore this more and more, you'll be able to understand. But the thing I want to leave with you today is just the understanding that specialness is not what we think, right? We think specialness is a rarity. And what I'm telling you, that we are all special in our own way, yes. But the reason why we don't understand what our specialness means and what that requires and can bring out of us is because we are not taught to understand how and why we're special, how and why we are unique. And yet all the evidence is there in science and DNA. The scientists tell us that DNA is like a fingerprint, right? And so there are all these different factors, but your DNA is unique in every possible way. Even if you have a doppelganger out there, somebody who looks like your twin, you may have somebody that say you're a twin. I remember when I was younger growing up, I used to wear glasses. No, I still do wear glasses, but when I used to wear them all the time, people would look at me and say, "You look like Urkel from Family Matters on TV, this TV show called Family Matters." And they would say I look like Urkel, this weird, geeky like kid. And I used to get, a little ticked off about that because, I'm not a geek, or maybe I thought I was, but the idea was that I looked like this other person. And so you adopt this. But even if me and Steve Urkel were identical, in reality, we each have unique capabilities that are innate to ourselves, right? The actor who played Urkel and myself may look alike if we stand side by side, but the diversity in our personalities and our experiences and the way that we show up in the world and the way that we help and create value for others is a very unique and very different thing. And understanding that is something that more and more people are beginning to explore. But when I started writing this book, I'd never heard anyone really unpack it and break it apart in this same way. And over again, I've heard people say to me, I've never heard anyone say this in this way. And so the purpose of this show is to really help people to be able to understand that and to be able to help it to grow in terms of their understanding about who you are, who you were created to be, and why you have not yet tapped into, you have not even come close to tapping into the potential that you have for living your life. And no matter what it is that you want to do, whether it's grow a business, whether it is to have a powerful relationship or build a family, whether it's to be ambitious in your career, whatever it is that you are out to do in the world, you need to understand that you were created with a purpose that far outshines anything that you could ever have imagined, and that each one of us is capable of it no matter where we are in the world. So that's where we want to going to land the plane for today. This is just the first episode, the first foray into this topic and understanding it. But hopefully this is something that will allow you to be able to open your mind up and be able to unpack some incredible things about who you are. Just begin to answer some questions in ways that maybe you've never really imagined before. If you're watching this live on YouTube, I hope that you will subscribe to the channel, like, vote, Make sure that you are tuned in so you can catch every single episode as we dive deeper into this topic and learn more and more about who we are, who we were created to be, and how that really impacts the things that you want to be able to create in your own life. With that being said, I'm thankful for those of you who stopped by, those who are watching, and I'm really excited about this. Uh, Whether no one watches, some people watch, whatever the case may be, it's getting out here, and it's really about sharing this with the world and letting people know that this is something that's really important. That everyone needs to understand their superpower, their zone of genius, their gift, and how it can impact them and those that they love. This is episode 1, Breaking Orbit Podcast. I'm Frederick Douglass Bussey, as always, ever forward.